On April 26, 1986, two explosions in Chernobyl's nuclear power plant cast a die for one of the worst nuclear meltdowns to date. The two explosions alone released as much as 400 times more radioactive fallout into the atmosphere than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Fires in the plant raged for 6 hours. Unbeknownst to the response team, water used to cool the fires was pooling deep within Chernobyl. Molten reactor material was quickly approaching the small lake of water and would cause a massive steam explosion if action was not taken. In order to drain the water, valves in the basement needed to be opened. 3 men volunteered to traverse the radioactive water and release the valves, risking life and limb. With a flashlight in hand, the men headed to the basement. The flashlight, however, quickly went out and left the men in the dark radioactive water. The men were able to find the valve and drain the basement. Would they have failed, a massive explosion would have produced unfathomable amounts of fallout, irradiating much of Europe. These brave men put themselves in a dangerous situation to protect others. They were heroes. June 6, 1944. A coalition of Allied troops stormed 5 locations on Normandy Beach in France. Some of the soldiers were as young as just 18 years old. Almost 7,000 American soldiers lost their lives that day. The fighting was most intense on Omaha Beach. Soldiers were dropped 200 yards from the shore under heavy gunfire. The ocean water was neck deep in some spots, and many died from being carried under by the weight of their own supplies. Once they made landfall, soldiers had to run for another 100 yards under intense gunfire to safety. From there, soldiers had to fight their way up cliffs and hillsides with peril at every turn. When the sun set, there were upwards of 2,000 American bodies on Omaha Beach. Their sacrifice was enormous. However, it led to the liberation of tens of thousands of Jews from concentration camps later that year, and the end of the European theater of World War II. The soldiers who died on D-Day were heroes. History is full of heroic stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The acts of the Chernobyl divers or soldiers on D-Day are undoubtedly heroic. While most of us will certainly never find ourselves swimming through the radioactive water to save the continent of Europe, or storming a beach and staring death in the face, we too can be heroic. In its most simple of terms, being heroic is putting other before self, and that is something we can all do. Be it risking your life to save a continent, or going out of your comfort zone to cheer someone up. Putting other before self could be taking time out of your day to talk to someone who looks upset. It could be giving a homeless person $1. It could be smiling and saying thank you to a cashier. Heroic actions do not need to be on a grand scale. The scale of the action is not what makes the action heroic. Being heroic simply comes down to putting other before self. One example of heroism from my own life came from playing baseball. I was trying out for a select team, and for those who don't know, when you try out for a team, there are often more than 20 kids that are also trying to get a spot on the team. So it can be kind of a stressful situation because every move you make is being judged by the coach to see if you're good enough. So on top of this, there are a lot of kids, and it can be really socially awkward. I didn't know anyone, and it was time to start warming up. And warm-ups are done in partners, and on this particular occasion, there were an odd number of kids, and I happened to be the one that ended up without a partner. So on top of all this stress, there's also the feeling of being the odd man out. But before I even realized it, one of the other players asked me to join his group to make a group of 3, and that is heroism. That's everyday heroism. That's putting other before self. So if I could close by just saying one thing, it's that it doesn't take an incredible task to be a hero. Being a hero is putting other before self. My name is Alexander Treon. This has been my Heroic Imagination Project, and thank you.